Hello, good day. I'm Patrick Wong. I'm a SharePoint consultant, and today we'll be talking about how to view SharePoint Audit History from SharePoint Online. Really, we'll be talking about the situations of why you want to use this, why it's important, how we can solve the problem. Then we'll take a look at a demo, and we'll quickly review some of the benefits of the tool. All right, let's get stuck in and get started. So really today, what is the problem or challenge? And let me set the table on the situation. And hopefully some of these problems or pains really resonate with you in terms of your role in your organization and things that you've seen in your day-to-day. So really the first problem is I need to obtain a summary of activity on my SharePoint site or documents. Okay, common. You're a manager, so IT manager or a manager of a specific department, and you need to get that audit activity. You may be legal counsel, right? So you're preparing for a case. You need to obtain all the activity for that site or a number of sites or a number of documents. Or you're an internal or external auditor where you need to prove your documentation practices. You need to show that you have this information available and prove that you have it. Okay? You may be a user, just a regular SharePoint user, and oftentimes I hear this from a lot of the users that we do support, in that I can't view my audit history in SharePoint Online for documents and folders, right? There's no way to do it today. There may be cybersecurity incidents where in IT, you're a cybersecurity analyst and you need to see all activity performed by a user. So there's some sort of investigation. You need to get all activity. You need to see what a specific user has done over a specific period of time. So today, how do you do this? And really, it's done through Compliance Center in M365, also known as Purview, right? And you have to go outside of SharePoint, right? You have to request someone who has access to run these reports for you through Purview. And we hear, it's business process. It could take a couple of days. You send it through IT to get these reports for you. They kind of go off into a black hole and they come back with a CSV file for you to look at. So it's not the most optimal. It's a little bit slow. And for those of you who've used Purview before, it's a nice tool, right? The interface, there's some things that are lacking. The search is a little bit lacking, but I won't go into a demo of Purview. Maybe we'll save that for another day, but we do hear it is slow. The process can be a little bit painful. And then lastly, you hear from end users or site collection administrator, I can't access the audit history myself, right? You're not empowering your users. There's no way for them to see what's happened to their documents, right? So really, setting the table, those are the types of problems that we hear our users coming to us, and hopefully they resonate with some of the pains that you're facing. And yeah, well, let's change gears a little bit and let's actually find out and talk a little bit about why it's important. And firstly, let's start with end user perspective. And these are all pretty straightforward. A user wants to be able to see what happened right from their items, so right from your document or folder in SharePoint. You want to see what actually happened, who's looked at it, right? So that's the who, the what, when, where, and how on your document activities, right? So you want to be able to see that. And today you can't see that, right? If let's say, for example, has Steve reviewed my standard operating procedure document? You can't determine that today in SharePoint, right? You'd have to send off that request in Purview and get someone to check to see, yeah, has Steve actually looked at your document, right? So really, why is it important? You're empowering your users with the ability to view the audit log history. Really, they're the subject matter experts, right? So they'll know, if something is peculiar that's going on, they'll be able to see, hey, maybe this person shouldn't have access. right? So the identification of who has viewed, edited, shared, downloaded your documents, that sort of information will be available at their fingertips. Uh, as I mentioned, SMEs, so your subject matter experts, can identify things like the security or permission issues themselves, right? If they can see what's actually happening to their documents. And then lastly, friction. I can't wait for an administrator to run a purview search on my documents. Okay? On to the next topic, and really the next user and reason why it's important is from the compliance and risk perspective, right? So it may sound boring, right, from a compliance and regulatory risk perspective, but they are critical and vital to many organizations. Okay, so some of the common compliance reasons could be, in pharmaceutical industry or healthcare industry, there's FDA 21 CFR Part 11, where you have auditors asking about your processes, and they want to see a complete and unaltered audit log history for your electronic records. This is one way where you can satisfy that need, where if an auditor asks you, you can prove it easily and quickly. Okay? We need to show regulators that required activity has been undertaken and faithfully recorded, up to date, and accessible. And really, that's an important part of your business process. You need to prove that. Common requirement that we've seen in industry is a need to preserve your legal chain of custody for your content, right? So that's preserving it, securing it, and showing that you do have that full legal chain of custody, proving who's looked at it, who's touched it, what time they did it, right? All that information is preserved for the lifetime of your documents, not just for 1 year, not just for 6 months, right? For the lifetime of your documents, right? Whether that's 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. Okay? Reduce risk and ensure compliance via the common industry regulations. Many of you may already know a lot of these regulations. I won't go into full detail, right? But I'll touch on some of the important ones. HIPAA, right, having to do with personal information. ePHI, right, electronic personal health information, making sure the right people are looking at it, and the right people or the wrong people aren't looking at it. You're not leaking that information, right? Sarbanes-Oxley in the U.S. is a requirement that says for publicly traded companies, you need to maintain your history, your electronic information, 7 years. You need to prove that. In the UK, very similar, GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. We have our regular ISO 9001, your quality management systems, where you need to prove that legal chain of custody. GXP best practices, this is a big one, right? So there's something known as the good documentation practices in healthcare, pharmacy, that profession, where you have the acronym ALCOA. And that ALCOA stands for it's attributable, who's done it, right? It's legible. Is it a readable, unambiguous? Can you search on these audit logs? Are they queryable? Contemporaneous, right? So are these actions, events, and decisions recorded as they take place? Are they original? Remain as they are, so that the data integrity piece. And then are they accurate? Are they truthful records? So really, as you guys may understand as well, there's consequences for not being compliant. And they range from small things like corrective actions where you need to correct things by a certain date, progressively becoming more serious like financial penalties or legal liability. And then lastly, one of the most important ones is avoiding damage to your organization's reputation. You guys may have heard of the HIPAA wall of shame. You don't want to go on that list. You don't want to have those reputational impacts, which really hits your bottom line, right? If your customers see that you're not compliant, can they trust? Is there additional risk, right? So really ensuring compliance and regulatory requirements are met, so your business is protected now and in the future, super important. Okay, so what's the solution? Why are we here today? What are we going to look at in our demo? So ECM Insights is a certified Microsoft partner. The solution that we're looking at today is called Audit Vault for M365. And what that does is it's a solution to help you avoid risk and stay compliant with Microsoft 365 audit log retention for the lifetime of your documents, right? So it's got you protected. It's not just 6 months, it's not just 1 year, it's for the lifetime of your documents. We enable audit history for SharePoint, which allows you to view your audit log history from items directly within SharePoint Online. You'll be wowed when you take a look at the demo. Now, the solution is also fully integrated with Microsoft 365. It's a turnkey cloud solution. You don't have to install an app. You don't need to support it internally. We got you covered. Now, audit history for SharePoint can be found online today on Microsoft's App Source Store. So look for it there. Great. So now we're going to jump into a demo of audit history for SharePoint. Let's get going. Great. Let's jump right into the demo. So let's set the table a little bit. So the situation I often hear from customers, and the problem that we're looking to solve here is the situation where you have a user saying, I can't view my audit history in SharePoint Online for my documents and folders. And really our solution here makes it easy for our end users to be able to access their SharePoint audit history right from within SharePoint. So what we have here is when I select my document, we're going to have the audit history added to both the context menu via the ellipsis, right? So when you click the three dots, we have audit history here. And we also have it in our command bar ribbon, right? So you can choose audit history from there. Okay, so really what we've done is we've empowered your end users, so you will have the ability to access your audit history for your documents and folders right at your fingertips from within SharePoint. Okay, and in addition, we will preserve all of your audit history for the lifetime of your documents. Okay, so let's actually take a look at what the audit history looks like. So I'm going to click here and choose audit history. What happens is it will open up a new tab, right? This separate tab will have all of your audit history in there, right? And the audit history represents a chain of legal custody for everything that's happened to this document. Okay, and we'll quickly go through what we're looking at here. So from this interface, we have a number of rows and columns, and the columns are sortable. So we can sort it by event, we can sort it by date, we can sort it by user. Okay, and the gist of it is the first entry that we see here was when the file was created. So we see the file was uploaded on 4/12/2024 by Christine Chappell, right? And going up, you can see the file was accessed by Wesley, and it was accessed again, and it was downloaded, right, at 1:53 by Wesley, right? So pretty much you have a very detailed audit of everything that's happened. It's displayed for your end users, it's sortable, and you can export it, right? And to export it, you just click the export button, and for exporting, the general use case there is maybe you need to provide that to end users who is requesting it, or maybe outside legal counsel is requesting audit copy of what happened to a certain document, right? Or in different auditor situations where an auditor is requesting this information. So it's all available from the export option. Okay, so that dovetails nicely into the second problem that I'd like to talk about. And that's oftentimes we hear our customers ask, hey, I can't access this audit history from SharePoint. The only way I can do it is from the Compliance Center or Purview, right? You need to have the appropriate role access or permissions to access that, and it needs to be accessed outside of SharePoint Online, right? So with this solution, you can do it right from within SharePoint, and your end users can access it themselves if they have the appropriate permissions. Okay, so wow, I don't have to run this from Purview. I have empowered my end users to access it, to access their audit history, and see the legal chain of custody straight from within SharePoint. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to close that. Now let's shift gears. Let's take a look at the audit history on a folder, and let's see what kind of information we can see. So now let's go into product development, for example. Sorry, now let's try that again. Let's look at the audit history on product development. Okay, so what we see here, a different use case, a little bit different, right? So we have 3 entries. Now this is an interesting one because now you can see things like, has my document been shared out? Have permissions changed on this document, right? So we see sharing was set. So this document has been shared out, something's changed in terms of the permissions, and we can actually click on it and we can get those details, right? So from this detail, we can see that this document was shared out by Christine, or this folder was shared out by Christine using this IP address with a specific device with a specific browser that's captured in this audit log. Okay, and now you can actually see who the target user or group which was added to this folder. In this case, we can actually see that James Kirk was added to be able to access this folder. So it's pretty powerful. Great. So now let's move on to the second part of our demo, and we're going to be looking at some of the reports that are built into Audit Vault for M365. And the problem that we're looking to solve here is we have customers asking that, hey, I want to see a summary of all the activity on my SharePoint site, or I need to see all the activity performed by a certain user on a certain date over a certain period of time. Right? So that's the use case we're looking at. And really, it could be from an incident, right? A contractor has been accessing things they should not be accessing. We need to do an investigation, or it could be something, a use case related to compliance and certain regulations, like you may be familiar with HIPAA or ePHI, where it's electronic protected health information, where you need to prove what has happened to your content, who has accessed your content. You need to see all the activity. Or maybe it's something like in a specific industry vertical, like pharmaceuticals, right, where you have to follow GXP best practices, where you have good documentation practices that you need to show the who, the what, the where, the when, and how of the legal chain of custody for what's happened to your documents, right? So let's actually take a look at some of these built-in reports. Okay, so what we're looking at here within SharePoint, within your SharePoint reporting, is a bunch of different reports that are built in that allow you to get more detail. Things like, get me all the audit history for a specific item. Get me the SharePoint file activity in the last 30 days. Get all SharePoint page views by a certain user. Get all activity by site collection, location, or file, right? You can also do it by user. You can say, get me all activity, similar to that incident that we just talked about where a contractor has been accessing things that maybe they shouldn't be, right? You can say, get me all activity by that user. Get me all things deleted. Get me all things created. Get me all things edited, right? And you could do it by IP address as well, right? So all of these built-in reports support your compliance, your risk, your auditing requirements. Okay, so let's actually jump into one of these reports and we'll walk through what the report looks like and the functionality at your fingertips. So we're going to click all activity by site collection, location, or file. Now we're going to want to pull back everything. Let's say we're doing an incident investigation and we want to pull everything back for a certain site. And let's pull it back for finance. And we're going to pull it back for all users. And let's say we want to do that report between April 1st and April 12th. So I'm going to click run. Now one of the things that you'll notice is that it's an immediate report. It's instant. You don't have to wait for a search to come back. Okay? And the first thing that we'll see here is an instant useful visual summary or chart of everything that's happened for that site. So within that finance site collection, we can see there's been 166 file accesses. There's been 52 file downloads, right? A folder's been moved 11 times. So we first get that summary, and then we get a listing of everything that's actually occurred, all the audit entries. And as before, you have different columns that you can sort it by. You can even export it, right? So if you need to export all the details, for a, let's say, outside legal counsel, or an auditor needs it, or someone in IT security needs that information as part of a deeper investigation, you can export it here. Very powerful. Okay, so let's actually take a look at one of these events and a specific file, and let's actually see what we can see here, right? So let's take a look at this entry, and it's for a specific TD Business Cashback Visa document, right? So I'm going to click on it, and when I click on it, as before, we get the full details, that who, what, where, when, and how for that entry, right? So we can see, who accessed it. Was it from a managed device, the browser they used, the device they used, and the IP address. So that's all here, right? We can see the IP address. We can kind of do whatever we need with all these details, right? So we have a legal chain of custody of everything that's happened in that site. Now, one of the really powerful things that our customers often tell us is, from this interface, you can actually get back to a full summary of everything that's happened specifically just for this document. So I'm going to click on that ID, and what's going to come back is all the audit entries just for that document. So that TD Business Cashback Visa card, right? Everything that's happened. So we see there's 5 audit entries. Lisa uploaded it on 3/29, right? The file was accessed a number of times, and maybe that file download is a surprise, right? Maybe Lisa would say, hey, why is Jess looking at this document? Why is she downloading it, right? She shouldn't even have access, right? So that's all available straight from SharePoint and available from these reports, right? These built-in reports. These built-in reports allow you to support your compliance, your risk, your auditing needs. Great. Let's turn our attention to a quick summary of the benefits. So number 1, easily view your audit log history directly from an item in SharePoint Online. We saw that in the demo. Wow, your end users have the ability to view their SharePoint audit history directly from within SharePoint at their fingertips. Avoid risk and stay compliant with unlimited M365 audit log retention. So today, the default with your Microsoft licenses is your audit logs are kept for 180 days or 1 year. After that time, they're gone forever, right? So this solution allows you to avoid that, right? We keep your audit log history for as long as you need it for the lifetime of your documents. Save money on your Microsoft licensing costs. Gain access to powerful reports, advanced searching, and threat intelligence on your logs. To support your compliance, regulatory, and risk program needs, we provide compliance certificates to prove your defensible, unaltered audit history. Number 6, single sign-on. It's a fully integrated M365 solution, right? It's a turnkey cloud solution. Single sign-on, there's no app to install. We help you support it. And lastly, Concierge Quick Start service is available. If you want to get everything set up, you need to obtain some training. We'll take care of you, and we'll get you set up from beginning to using the tool. Really, Audit Vault for M365 helps you achieve many things. You're not just meeting requirements. You're embracing a culture of compliance that reduces risk, enhances operational efficiency, and ultimately protects your organization's bottom line and reputation. Great. So, well, there you have it. We looked at the problem, right? The problem is you can't access your audit history from SharePoint Online, right? You have to go to Purview, right? There's no nice, easy summarized reports, right? We help you solve that. We keep it for the lifetime. We keep that audit log history for the lifetime of your documents for SharePoint and many other workloads like Exchange and Entra as 2 other ones that are common. We looked at why it's important to keep your audit history, right? Whether it's compliance reasons or end user reasons or legal case reasons, right? You achieve compliance and regulatory requirements. We looked at a demo of Audit Vault for M365 and audit history for SharePoint and how you can achieve some of your requirements by using our tools. And finally, we reviewed the many benefits to your organization just now. Hopefully they resonate with you. For next steps, really, you can sign up Online now for a free trial at auditvault365.com. Feel free to visit our website and learn more at ecminsights.com. Schedule a demo. We'd love to chat about, the return on investment or how much we can help you save on your licensing costs. And, feel free to reach out any questions at support@ecminsights.com. We really appreciate taking a little bit of your time today to tell you a little bit about our solution, and we sincerely thank you for your time.